This is CBC Here and Now.
Well, enjoy the beautiful weather coming over the next couple of days because things are about to change.
Food prices are going up. The impact that has specifically on food banks and generally on food security, that's coming up.
The great turkey shortage of 2021. Is it a real thing or just something that showed up on social media?
Sometimes it's a challenge to get supply, and this year in particular has been a challenging year.
I'm Jeremy Eaton and I'll answer that question coming up on Here and Now.
Welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. There's a renewed push to get the vaccination rates higher in this province, and one of the areas seeing that push is Bell Island. Bell Island has the distinction of having the lowest vaccination rate in the province, just 66% of the 2,500 residents as of late last month. But local leaders are hoping that will soon change. Terry Roberts reports.
We're coming over, going back over to the island in a mobile van.
Yeah.
And it'll be at the end of the week for sure.
Okay, sounds perfect to me.
The mayor of Wabana received the news he was waiting for this afternoon while parked in the ferry lineup.
Yes, we're working very hard to get that vaccine rate up.
There's expected to be a lot of this going on later this week, and for as long as it takes to increase the number of vaccinated citizens on Bell Island.
Let's hope one by one we'll get them all.
The island community in Conception Bay will become a focal point for vaccines. A specially equipped van from Eastern Health will cross the Tickle in a few days, bringing vaccines and experts to help administer them.
We're trying to get the numbers up as much as we can. I think we're going to be able to accomplish it, but it's going to be slow.
Despite hosting 13 clinics in recent months, many Bell Islanders appear hesitant or unable to get the COVID-19 vaccine, with just 66% of residents fully vaccinated, well behind the provincial benchmark of more than 82%.
Well, it doesn't help us to know that we're the lowest.
It's a little alarming to have such a low difference between, Bell Island and you get off the ferry. The next part of my district has the highest in the province in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips.
The local MHA is making this plea.
I've had my double dose. I've had no ill effects from it. I know now I'm not only keeping myself safe, but I'm keeping everybody around me safe.
Bell Island is unique. A commuter workforce gone from the island for most of the day. An aging population, many with mobility issues. So the plan, use a mobile clinic to bring the vaccines directly to residents.
It'll meet people wherever they need to meet. They'll meet them at the ferry terminal on either side. If it means going to your house, we'll go to your house. If it means we got to pick you up and bring you to a clinic, we'll do that. If it means we've got to meet you at the ferry terminal, we'll do that.
And with vaccine passports about to become a reality, the mayor says the choice is simple.
You're home and you can't go anywhere. I guess you got to get vaccinated.
Terry Roberts, CBC News, Portugal Cove.
There are another 5 cases of COVID-19 in the province. 3 are in the Eastern Health region and 2 are in central Newfoundland. 13 people are now in hospital because of the virus and 5 of them are in critical care. There are currently 153 active cases of COVID-19 in the province.
Health officials will be establishing a COVID-19 testing clinic on the south coast of the island. Town councillors in St. Albans were calling for a closer testing clinic, saying the 2-hour drive from Bay d'Espoir to Grand Falls, Windsor was a barrier for testing. Central Health will run 2 clinics at the Lions Club in Milltown this week. It's scheduled for tomorrow from 3 to 7 p.m. and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The province is also reporting potential exposures at a cafe in the region. Anyone who was at the Bayside Cafe on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday of last week between 3:30 and 4:45 p.m. is asked to call 811.
Not a whole lot to complain about weather-wise today if you were in the Big Land or really anywhere along the west coast of the island today. Beautiful afternoon, but that area of low pressure to the east, which was or is post-tropical Sam, bringing lots of cloud cover to the eastern half of the island along with some drizzle, but that will head out as we head through the evening hours today. That onshore flow also leading to some cool temperatures, only topping out in the single digits for most of the northeast coast today, and with some pretty gusty winds as well. About 80 kilometers per hour today in Bonavista. 61 was a top gust in St. John's. Factor in that with the cool temperatures, wind chill values right now feeling more like 2 to 4 degrees. So certainly going to see some cool air move back in as we head through the weekend, but a couple of gorgeous days on the way. I'll get into those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a woman in Natuashish has filed a complaint against the community priest. Christine Poker is an addictions counselor at the Mushwa Innu Healing Lodge. She recently received a call from Father Anthony On, and she says he was critical of their traditional practices. Now, according to Poker, the priest said talking to the spirits of their ancestors is evil. She says that Sunday, On continued to criticize the lodge's methods during a church service.
I go to the church to feel comfort. It's like he's washing those feelings off of me with his words. We've been trying very hard to get our culture back. I said, we give thanks to the spirits. It's still not acceptable, he said, talking to the deceased.
Well, Christine Poker says Father On later issued an apology on Facebook, saying his words were unfair. Poker says she'll continue to give offerings to her past generations because it brings her peace.
Every October 4th, vigils are held across the country to honor the lives of missing and murdered Indigenous women. In St. John's yesterday, First Light and the Status of Women Council teamed up to host their own Sisters in Spirit vigil, providing a space for families and friends to celebrate the lives of their loved ones while also creating a space for healing.
My mother, Mary Susan Evans Arlick, she was an Inuk woman, and she was murdered December 12, 2002.
I'm here to, honor my mom really and keep her voice alive. She was 24 years old when she passed. Myself and my brother were very young. I was 6 years old and he was 5. And she gave us the best life that she could. Being a young mother is very difficult.
October 4th is an annual Sisters in Spirit event that happens right across the country. We are partnering with the St. John's Women's Center to host a Sisters in Spirit vigil to honor the lives of missing and murdered women, girls, and gender diverse people here in this province.
Inside, you'll see 12 red dresses hung, and that is symbolizing the fact that Indigenous women, girls, are 12 times more likely than non-Indigenous women to experience violence or to be killed in Canada. The red dress is a symbol of murdered and missing Indigenous women. You'll see them, across the province, on the state, around the country as a symbol, and so they're hung outside here today and they're hung inside just to honor the lives of the women we've lost.
My daughter, Courtney Michelle Lake, disappeared from Mount Pearl near our home on June 7, 2017 at the young age of 24.
When Courtney went missing, that year, the first year that we were involved in these events, Courtney was number 121. And I know I said in year 1, I hope there's not another name added to this anymore. And events like these are hopefully getting the word out there that something has to be done.
There's 148 candles, each one symbolizing one of the women or girls on that list of murdered and missing women and girls in this province. And we hope that this is an issue that eventually we'll find a solution and not have to add more names to that list each year.
I went a lot of my life not knowing anyone who has gone through a situation similar to mine. And the first time I attended the In Her Name vigil, which was a few years ago, I was just overwhelmed with emotion because I didn't feel like I was alone anymore. There's a different kind of love when I come to these events because everyone understands how hard the loss is and how hard it is to deal with that and life afterwards.
There's a big sense of community. We are all pretty good friends now, just wish it was under different circumstances, right?
It makes me sad because there was a call to action a few years ago and nothing has been done since. And here we are, more names being read out. Everyone that attends vigils like this, we're going to keep fighting for change because that's what needs to happen.
These girls don't have a voice of their own now, so we have to be their voices.
To some other news stories now. Rising food prices are putting a strain on an already stretched system, and the places that help some of the most vulnerable people in the province are seeing this firsthand. Here now's Enrique Wilhelm reports.
Food prices have been going up, about 5% this year, according to Food First NL, a group that pushes for access to healthy and affordable food in the province. Those higher prices affect everyone's wallet, their ability to afford food, but food banks are really feeling it this year.
Crisis moments in people's lives, but they're not a systemic solution, and they're already under a ton of strain because sometimes we treat them that way. I think sometimes we think if the problem is food insecurity, the solution is giving people food, and that's not really the best way to go about it. And so I think we're going to see more and more pressure on that system.
With fewer donations and more first-time users coming in, food banks find it hard to keep up.
We went from having a model of 90% of our food donated to having to buy all our food. Buying food with the food prices going up is certainly not sustainable on our end. So really, as a manager right now, that's my main concern. I'm looking at the next few years and trying to figure out what will that look like.
Ian Torbay, the president of the Northeast Avalon Food Bank, says they're still able to meet the demand for food hampers, but rising food prices make it hard to provide perishable food items like eggs or meat.
We're more worried about Christmas now with turkeys being $60 and $70. We've asked our councils to reach out to see if people would donate a turkey to the councils, and they keep them for us, God love them, in their freezers. We can't afford to go out and buy 100 or 150 families of turkeys ourselves, being non-profit.
It just can't be in our budget, right? Sometimes I would buy, say, ground beef, and our clients love to get that. But right now it's just outrageous. The price is so outrageous that I couldn't even afford to give people a pound of ground beef.
According to Food First NL, food insecurity was already at about 15% before the pandemic, a rate that is now expected to be higher. Enrique Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, in the weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, many have been flocking to supermarkets to get their turkey, only to leave empty-handed. Now, it seems frozen turkeys had been flying off store shelves faster than staff can restock them, but is there really a shortage? Here now's Jeremy Eaton has that story.
The truth is out there. And by truth, I mean turkeys, and by out there, I mean in here.
We have ample supply of turkeys in all our stores, and I think if families are looking to cook a turkey for Thanksgiving dinner, they should be okay.
That wasn't always the case. Recently, social media started tracking where birds were being sold. In some stores, they'd flown the coop by the time shoppers arrived. So people began lining up. Before stores even opened, customers waiting, hoping to get their hands on one. But was there really a shortage?
Yeah, it's a real thing, but the turkey category is pretty reliable. Come around Thanksgiving time, families are looking for turkeys. So sometimes it's a challenge to get supply, and this year in particular has been a challenging year, but we're in a real good shape in terms of our inventories.
Sobeys confirmed there was an increase in frozen turkey sales last week in Newfoundland, but says it's since replenished the supply. So I decided to take this to the top of the food chain, to the Turkey Farmers of Canada, to see if this same problem exists in other provinces.
We haven't noticed anything like that to the same degree in any other parts of the country at this time.
Planning out how many turkeys are needed for the Thanksgiving and Christmas season is something that happens nearly a year in advance.
We were lower on September 1st on our inventories, but there will be growth and there will be fresh product coming into the time period prior to Thanksgiving.
Back in St. John's, some stores have now placed a limit on just how many turkeys you can roll out with.
We're being careful to make sure that we're not, selling multiple items to folks and that sort of thing who look to be bulking up in a kind of a panic buy behavior. We will look to limit in different stores depending on our volume. What we're really trying to accomplish is to make sure that anybody who wants to buy a turkey for their family gathering, that we have one for them.
So the turkey farmers say they'll have enough supply to meet the demand. Grocery stores have confirmed that they'll have stock when you're looking to buy, but you might not want to wait before all the turkeys get gobbled up. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
Wow, we saw drizzle a lot of the day today. Things are going to improve and a gorgeous day on tap tomorrow. I'll get into those details when I come back.
We can say agahilikut, which means my hands are cold. I find myself this one a lot.
With growing conversations about reconciliation and residential schools, a teacher in Rigolet wants to save a special Inuktitut dialect.
Well, she even wrote a book about it. That's ahead after Ashley's weather.
Thursday on Here and Now, the Trailway in Conception Bay North was a rough ride.
Fixing bridges that were just not there, gone, falling apart.
But volunteers are turning it around. Now it's giving the local economy a shot of gas.
Since Adam came along and started doing some work on the trails, there's bikes here now daily.
Rolling on the CBN Trailway, Thursday on Here and Now.
Oh, it was a cold one today in St. John's, windy and drizzly, just overall not a great day.
Yep, definitely not. Not nice really anywhere along the northeast coast, but the rest of the province saw a beautiful day. Take a look at the temperatures up across Labrador. 17 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay today with plenty of sunshine. A number of areas seeing those temperatures in the teens, low teens. In some cases, 12 degrees in Cartwright, but then across the island, 13 in Stephenville, 14 in Deer Lake today, same thing for Badger, but there's those cooler temperatures I was talking about. 6 to 9 degrees is all we topped out at along the northeast coast today, and the reason for that is post-tropical storm Sam off of the coast right now, but leading to that onshore flow for the most part. And as we head through the night tonight, we are going to see the conditions improve quite a bit as this ridge of high pressure starts to dominate the weather. And then as far as the future tracker goes, there's not a whole lot to talk about tonight because things will stay generally clear thanks to that ridge of high pressure, although we will likely see some showers develop and for northern portions of the Big Land and then spread across as we head into the early morning hours. So by the time you wake up, or rather before you wake up around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you'll start to see that shower activity for Lab West through central and coastal areas as well. And then as Hurricane Sam, or post-tropical storm Sam rather, moves off, it'll take the winds with it. So those breezy winds that we're seeing right now for Bonavista, as well as the northern Avalon, will move out right along with it. And then tonight, generally looking at some fairly light winds, certainly along the west coast, only about 5 to 10 kilometers per hour. And then in the east, you'll see those temperatures, those winds rather, about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. But with those clear skies, those temperatures really going to drop down to 3 to 7 degrees as the overnight lows tonight. Up across Labrador, though, that chance of showers, like I said, but your temperature's a tad warmer, about 9 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay tonight and 8 in Cartwright. Now tomorrow, ridge of high pressure still dominates for the most part, but we'll see that chance of showers in the morning for Lab West, central and coastal areas. That'll spread towards southeastern Labrador, may skirt the northern peninsula as well, but most of the afternoon will be absolutely gorgeous. You'll see some sun peek out across the Big Land as well. Hang on to the chance of showers though for northern coastal areas, and we may see those showers as well pop up along the northeast coast as we get into the evening hours tomorrow. Shouldn't amount to much, but that risk is certainly still there. Temperatures tomorrow, or rather the waves for tonight and tomorrow. Now we're seeing pretty significant waves all along the northeast coast, and again, thanks to the tropical system. As we head through the day tomorrow, that's when those waves will peak, and then they'll move off, or at least abate as we get into Wednesday evening and even into Thursday eventually as the system continues to track a little bit further east. So temperatures tomorrow, this is where I thought I was, but we're looking at those temperatures in the high teens tomorrow. An absolutely gorgeous day, well above where we should be sitting this time of year. Those winds will shift out of the west, which is why we'll see some of those warmer temperatures, but they'll be about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Plenty of sunshine in the mix, maybe a few clouds as well, but overall mainly sunny. As you head towards central, better chance of seeing a few clouds pop up. And then as you head towards the west coast, similar forecast, 16, 17 degrees is your daytime high. Those winds again out of the west, so not a whole lot of weather to speak of. But as we head towards the northern peninsula, temperatures a bit cooler, about 14 degrees. And then there's that chance of showers I was talking about for southeast portions of Labrador. 11 degrees in Cartwright tomorrow. Mary's Harbour sitting around 14. But you will see some sunshine as well, certainly not out of the question. Much cooler than today for Happy Valley Goose Bay by a few degrees. And then up across northern portions of Labrador as well as Lab West, you're going to see some breezy winds out of the northwest, about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. But those temperatures will be around 11 degrees for Lab City. So hopefully you'll like these temperatures over the next couple of days, even into Friday. We're going to see some warmer, or rather Thursday, we're going to see some warmer temperatures. But then as we get towards the weekend, things are going to change. Pattern's going to shift. We're actually watching the potential for development of an area of low pressure that will affect eastern areas. But I will get into all of those details when I come back.
Often when we focus on preserving Indigenous culture, journalists analyze the roles of elders, but we're going to turn that upside down now with my next guest, Ocean Pottle-Shiwak in Rigolet. She's written a book to promote Inuktitut. So Ocean, thanks for joining us. Why did you want to write this book?
I wanted to write this book because nobody here in Rigolet speaks Inuktitut, and not a whole lot of speakers speak on the North Coast in general either. So I wanted to kind of get the basics out there and hope people will take that and incorporate it into their life.
Okay, what about you, if I can ask you a personal question? What's your level in Inuktitut?
I've been learning it since kindergarten in school as a class, but I've also been kind of speaking it in my own life as well.
So is there a particular reason? I mean, why would you want to do this now?
There is a lot of things about residential schools and the holiday that just came up, and all that is very hot topic right now, I guess. And I think now would be a good time to get that resource out there where people are very engaged in that right now.
So do you think from what you've learned, is there a link between the weakening of Inuktitut and what happened in the past in residential schools?
Yeah, that's a lot of what happened in residential schools. Basically, the goal of the residential schools was to take that culture and native identity away from the children and replace it with religion and European characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
So that language was a part of that. So all that was taken away. My great-grandfather was a big inspiration for this, and my family in general too. But he was the biggest one, I think, because he was the last person that was known to speak the Rigolet dialect fluently.
So for a lot of people who aren't experts in languages, let alone Indigenous languages, there's a special Rigolet dialect?
Yes, there is our Rigolet dialect, and then there is the Natuashish dialect. They are very similar, and I've been told that our dialect is very similar to Greenlandic as well.
So this book is a fairly basic, almost like a phrase book, right? So how about, I'll make you my first Inuktitut language tutor. Can we try a phrase or two?
Okay.
All right.
We can say Agakahulikhut, which means my hands are cold.
Okay.
I find myself this one a lot.
Can you say it again?
Agakahulikhut.
Agakahulikhut?
Yep.
Partially. Let's try another one.
So this one is a question.
A question?
Angiveen, it means do you agree?
You say it again?
Angiveen.
Omnizine.
Angiveen.
Omniveen. Omniveen, okay. Do you agree that I just gave you the worst pronunciation you could possibly imagine?
I'm going to be honest. I've been trying to teach a lot of like outsiders, and yours is not that bad.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So for people who are watching and might be interested in languages such as yours, what do you hope they will get out of actually taking a look at your book? Because there's lots of useful phrases, right? Almost like a beginner's language book for any language. What do you hope they'll take away from it?
I hope that they'll appreciate that there's somebody trying to revive the language, but also kind of keep it in mind for when they're kind of around.
Well, it certainly seems like an inspirational kind of... May I ask you how old you are?
I just turned 18.
18, okay. And this is your first book, right?
Yeah.
You planning on any others?
I'm not sure. I kind of thought about it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Listen, Ocean, really appreciate your time. Congratulations. Anytime anybody creates a book, it's a major achievement, especially when you're 18. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I think those people probably who would have had a baby last year are feeling a bit more comfortable with having it than they've moved on to pregnancy this year.
An uptick in the number of babies born at the Health Sciences Center this summer. We'll find out what could be causing the baby bump. maternity ward at the Health Sciences Centre was a bit busier than usual this summer. Eastern Health says there's been an increase in the number of babies born, a spike they haven't seen since around 2014. We spoke with the chief for obstetrics at the hospital and the VP of the Harris Centre to find out what might be behind the baby bump.
This year, if you look at the numbers from this year, there has been an increase. If I look specifically at the labor and delivery, the case from the health sciences, we generally average in the range of 180 to 200 deliveries per month. This year, we're probably on target for about 200 deliveries per month. And in recent months, the average has been between 215 and 220 deliveries per month. The reason for the increase, I think, and I'm talking to some of my colleagues, is that people that delayed pregnancy maybe last year have sort of feel a bit more comfortable with going ahead with pregnancy at this point. So those people who may have had a baby last year are being superimposed on people who are having babies this year. And so the numbers are up.
Is not a trend, because a trend, of course, is over time, and it has outliers above and below the trend line. So it will require several other data points for us to get all excited and say that we've turned around the birth rate in this province. That said, numbers don't lie, and we can see a series of things happening in our province with the demographics. We know that the birth rate and fertility rates have been dropping for decades, and we know that many women have postponed having children because of education and time in the workforce. And the millennials, you know, we're all familiar talking about the baby boomers, and of course there's the cohorts that follow that. And many are now entering their 30s and getting well into their 30s. And so many would feel that if they are going to have children, now's the time.
There is an increase in new residents of the province. I think you are seeing more patients who have immigrated to Newfoundland and are having babies. I think that part of the population, I haven't looked specifically at the numbers, but I think just anecdotally, you are seeing new residents to the province who are having babies. I think there's definitely an increase in that part of the population.
And I think a lot of people also just realized life is more than just working hard, making money, and accumulating things. As with any type of crisis, it makes you rethink your priorities.
If you actually look at the number of delivery, there was they generally, as I said, they average about 180 to 200 deliveries per month. In 2008, 2009, there was an increase. I think the average was about 215 to 220. And again, we saw a similar increase in 2013, 2014. And it's hard to identify a reason for them. I think one of the things that you'll always find is that there's a direct correlation to in the birth rate with employment, when people have financial security, when the economy is going well. I think that definitely has been shown to be correlated with an increase in the birth rate. People feel more comfortable with having children and during those times. And so that's a big factor. It may have played a factor in the decline last year in terms of when people have concerns about their employment and concern about the economy and is this a good time to have a baby? And so I think anytime you see an increase, it may be related to that.
And I think a lot of people were thinking about the pandemic and wondering how this was going to play out. Was there going to be a baby boom because everyone's staying home and they have time on their hands? But it didn't quite play out that way.
It didn't quite play out that way. I know, there were some rumors of, a baby boom and the number of deliveries expected in August. And I think, that was probably a little bit of misinformation. But certainly there has been an uptick in recent months in the number of deliveries. So for sure you're seeing an increase in recent months.
The COVID cases continue to rise across Atlantic Canada. Just one new case of COVID on Prince Edward Island today, where there are 9 active cases. But Nova Scotia and New Brunswick are seeing bigger spikes. In fact, New Brunswick is now bringing in circuit breaker measures to curb the spread. There are new cases in other parts of the Maritimes as well. In Nova Scotia, there are 40 new cases. Most of those are in the Halifax area. There are 248 active cases in that province, but New Brunswick is the big story. 90 new cases today for a total of 782 active cases. And because of this, New Brunswick is implementing so-called circuit breaker measures in 3 different zones. The measures will be in place for at least 2 weeks starting on Friday.
We're in a serious situation in our province. We have 50 people in hospital, 23 in an intensive care unit. Of those in hospital, 7 are vaccinated, 2 have 1 dose of COVID-19 vaccine, and 41 are unvaccinated. We will be implementing a 14-day circuit breaker for communities identified as being at the highest risk. This means that indoor and outdoor gatherings are not permitted beyond your single household.
Ontario will soon begin offering rapid COVID-19 tests for schools and other childcare settings with a focus on high-risk areas. The province's top doctor says the strategy will help identify cases and prevent school closures. One medical expert is a big supporter of the idea, and not just for schools.
My interpretation is we should be rapid testing. Of course, they're not perfect. Of course, it's not a silver bullet, but it certainly can be, if used appropriately, a very, very helpful tool in creating a safer indoor environment, like a safer school.
Public health experts say rapid tests, which can be done at home, will help break potential chains of transmission. That's because they're very good at detecting people with high viral loads. This also reduces the strain on labs that perform the more time-consuming PCR tests. Well, in other news, a startup in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia has developed a special non-toxic paint that makes ships less loud and cuts fuel costs. That's according to research from Transport Canada.
Yes, the dark gray coating offers a green solution for the blue economy. CBC's Paul Withers has more on that story.
6 Cape Islander fishing boats in Nova Scotia were tested over an 18-month period. Measurements were taken when the hulls were fouled with marine growth, after they were cleaned, and finally after the hulls were sprayed with a super smooth, non-toxic anti-fouling paint.
And I'm very excited.
Results were released this week by Graphite Innovation Technologies, the Dartmouth startup company that developed the product, and Lloyd's Register, the global ship certification society that verified the findings.
We were able to reduce fuel consumption of about 20% at cruising speed, and about 6 to 7 dBs of noise reduction. This means a lot in underwater noise.
And dBs is decibels?
Decibels, yes.
The graphene coating allows the ship to move through the water with less friction, making it more efficient and quieter. The study was funded by Transport Canada under a program to reduce underwater noise to protect marine life and greenhouse gas emissions produced by ships. The department declined comment, saying it is awaiting a final report from the project. The company says an application would cost the average lobster boat about $1,000 and pay for itself in 10 to 14 trips in lower fuel costs.
So per trip, they'll be saving around $70.
But Al Jermozy has bigger fish to fry. With an estimated 50,000 commercial vessels on the water at any one time, he's looking at the worldwide shipping market.
What's demonstrated on a fishing boat can be amplified on a shipping vessel and even bigger vessels. So the bigger the ship, the more savings.
Lloyd's Register provided the independent assessment the shippers need.
It's very important that they see good scientifically based methodologies in the study of these types of, whether it's a product like a paint or a hard technology like a new propulsion system, for example.
In the meantime, the company is one step closer to commercializing its product. A final report is expected at the end of the year. The results for 6 Cape Islanders are one thing, but the shipping industry will want to see the results replicated on a larger scale. So next year, the company plans to paint its coatings on the hulls of bigger vessels. Paul Withers, CBC News, Dartmouth.
A Quebec coroner released details of her inquiry into the death of Joyce Echequan, an Indigenous woman who died in a hospital just east of Montreal last year. She said racism and prejudice contributed to the death of the 37-year-old mother of 7.
We witnessed an unacceptable death, and we must make sure that she did not die in vain, and that we learned as a society, we learned something from this tragic event. It is unacceptable.
The coroner says she believes Echequan would be alive today if she were white. She also concluded that Echequan's death could have been prevented with better care. She said Echequan was wrongfully labeled as a drug abuser and difficult patient despite there being no evidence of this. Echequan recorded staff making derogatory remarks towards her shortly before she died. Her death and the footage leading up to it triggered outrage and protest. Well, a former data scientist with Facebook testified before a U.S. Senate hearing on the company's practices. She's accusing the social media giant of putting profits before people and says the company's platforms are harmful to children, teens, and democracy. Magda Debrasalasi has this report from Washington.
Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you.
Frances Haugen was very clear that public safety and democracy is on the line here. She said Facebook knows that misinformation, threats, and other forms of harm are spreading on the company's platforms, and that the well-being and mental health of young people is at risk. Now, she got emotional at one point hearing how Instagram has changed the life of a teenage girl. The chair of the subcommittee read a message that he received during the hearing from a father who said his daughter loved her body before Instagram. Now she has body dysmorphia, including anorexia. We saw Haugen wipe a tear away as that message was being read out loud. Now, throughout her testimony, she said the company knows about the harm that is being caused and is choosing not to put solutions into action, instead putting profits first. So she's calling on Congress to act, including addressing a current law that protects the company from being legally responsible for what people post.
Facebook should not get a free pass on choices it makes to prioritize growth and virality and reactiveness over public safety. They shouldn't get a free pass on that because they're paying for their profits right now with our safety.
In the end, she says the buck stops with the company head, Mark Zuckerberg. We haven't heard from him yet, but listen to the message this senator had for him.
Your time of invading our privacy, promoting toxic content, and preying on children and teens is over. We will not allow your company to harm our children and our families and our democracy any longer.
After the hearing, the company released a statement online saying Howden didn't have any direct knowledge of the reports during her less than 2 years as a product manager, that they don't agree with her characterization, but do agree on one thing, that it is time to create standard rules for the internet. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Washington.
Russia is aiming for another space first, this time beating NASA and Tom Cruise to film a fictional movie on board the International Space Station. The Russian Space Agency launched an actress and a director into orbit earlier today. It's all a new frontier for commercialization. CBC's Briar Stewart has that story from Moscow.
Start.
Rocket launches are made for TV moments, but long before the countdown, this one was already a spectacle. A reality show documented Russia's search for a leading lady to star in the first feature film shot on the International Space Station. Yulia Peresild, a well-known Russian actress, was chosen after being tested in scenarios designed to simulate the force of takeoff and the weightlessness of space. Afterwards, she and the director of the film were given a few months of cosmonaut training. We are prepared as well as it's possible to get prepared, she said. This is an experiment. She will be playing a surgeon who has to perform a life-saving operation on the International Space Station. A veteran cosmonaut is leading the mission, and time was of the essence. Because Tom Cruise and NASA are also reportedly pairing up to make a movie on the space station. So, like many of history's great missions, this one was driven by competition and pride. The movie and the reality show are all an attempt to drum up excitement around Russia's space program. There's even an online tool that lets you launch a rocket and fly it over your social media videos. But despite the cutesy gimmicks, there are some real concerns around this project. Some say it's at best a vanity project, at worst a distraction from legitimate space exploration.
So this is kind of as Americans call it, low-hanging fruit. I am not the only one who is having this kind of, party pooper opinion.
It was a beautiful time, my time inside International Space Station.
Andrei Borisenko supports the idea of making movies in orbit. He spent months on the space station and says the first week of weightlessness can be the toughest.
I've
observed many on the space station, he said, and I can say there can really be some problems. But the team was all smiles when they arrived, describing the trip so far as a dream, as they started to get used to the idea of floating around their new movie set. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Moscow.
What?
I was thinking last night we had William Shatner's going up there, so maybe he'll sort of rain on the parade.
A different kind of space race for sure. I wonder what movie Tom Cruise will be doing, if it's going to be like one of those Mission Impossible movies in space.
We'll see.
as fat cat or the black sheep, very fortunate to still have this room.
There's a community in the Black Sheep.
I remember it vividly, actually, the first day I held sticks.
I want to capture the gigs, I want to capture the facial expressions.
You're creating the song that you want to hear.
That made me feel better listening to that, and maybe I could write my feelings out and see how I like that.
It's really all about the music.
Excited about this nice day coming tomorrow. It looks like it's going to be beautiful, a great day to get out and enjoy it, because who knows when the next nice day will be.
That's what happens. Yeah, when we get into fall, we start to see that long stretch of nice weather disappear. Get into that more active weather. Certainly the case as we get deeper and deeper into October, but it does look like Thursday will be beautiful. Let's take a look at those temperatures. Sunshine at this point. We may see some showers work their way towards the west coast as we get into the evening hours, but the first half of the day should be absolutely beautiful. This is a little cooler than what we're going to see tomorrow, but still still where we should be sitting this time of year, about 12 degrees in St. John's, 14 in Port aux Basques, and then still hanging on to those double-digit temperatures as well for Happy Valley Goose Bay, about 12 degrees. The rest of the Big Land will sit somewhere between 7 to 9. And again, going to hang on to that chance of showers right along the coast on Thursday. Now, what's happening over the next couple of days and why we're seeing this warmer air is we've got some ridging in the upper atmosphere, and that's allowing some of that warmer air to move in. But as we head through Thursday, we're going to start to see that pattern change. Big trough develops. This is going to bring some of that colder Arctic air further down as we get into Thursday, Friday even. And then we're watching an area of low pressure develop on Saturday as well, which is going to keep things, number one, northeasterlies, which means, or at least onshore, which means we're going to see some of that cooler temperature. But then that ridging develops again, which means some warmer air will move back in for the weekend. And then eventually back into Monday, Tuesday, we get back into that onshore flow and things will cool down again. So definitely in for a roller coaster ride as far as those temperatures go. There's what I'm talking about on Friday, back down to those single digits. And as you can see by those wind barbs, onshore flow. So you're going to hang on to the unsettled conditions through most of Friday as that area of low pressure starts to develop. Going to keep that chance of flurries in at least for the first half of the day for Happy Valley Goose Bay. But again, watching Saturday, there's that area of low pressure. Looks like as of now, the Avalon and the Bonavista Vista Peninsula is where we will likely see the most significant winds and or potentially some rain as well. We could see wind gusts upwards of about 80, even 100 kilometers per hour. Some models pointing it higher than that, but we do have a few days still to iron that out. So I'll definitely keep an eye on that. We could also see some locally heavy rain right through the weekend as well. So definitely looking at some unsettled conditions over the next couple of days. There you go. Saturday, Sunday, only highs around 7 degrees, but those temperatures really not moving too much from the daytime highs to the overnight lows, about 6 to 7 degrees at this point. And then there we go. Then we're looking at those temperatures as all right, everything is just messing up tonight. There's your forecast there for central Newfoundland. Now, it does look like things will start to improve as we get into the end of the weekend. Sunday at about 12 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud. And then for eastern Labrador, look at that. After some snow, back up to those warmer temperatures thanks to that shift, and about 12 to 16 degrees. So certainly not anything to complain about. And these little pups weren't complaining as well. This was them out enjoying a Signal Hill hike today. Cheryl shared that one with us. If you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, they're so cute. They look like they're road construction workers.
I know.
with their vests on.
Don't tell the union. Very well dressed.
Yes.
Adorable. Thank you for sending that in.
Yep.
Well, that's it for us tonight. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.
See you then.